What's up, guys? It's the one and only African superstar. Today, I want to talk about diaspora wars are not productive. It's time to move forward. Yes. Unfortunately, I was on TikTok yesterday and I saw yet again one of these non productive discussions between members of the Western diaspora, continentals, and all these kind of things. And the truth is that a lot of these discussions are not productive. How I've come to that conclusion is there's no fruit that comes from these discussions. It's usually just like a throwing back and forth of stereotypical things, high emotions, personal experiences, and things like that, and it leads to no tangible action. And you guys know I am someone who is all about action. I want to make sure that whatever I'm investing my time and energy in is going to have some fruit. So I've come up with a list of things that we could do to move beyond this. First and foremost is the recognition that we are not to blame for our circumstances. Okay? We are not the enemy. We do share a common enemy, but we are not the enemy. So when, for instance, Black Americans blame continental Africans for the transatlantic slave trade, hello, and negate the European hand in it, guys, you are channeling your energy in the wrong direction. And when, of course, in that set, the Continentals will then retort and use that slavery piece as a very, low blow, basically, because they know that Black Americans, for instance, are very, very sensitive about their roots and, not being able to have that history and things like that. Listen, first thing is realizing who the common enemy is, and that it's not each other. The second thing is accepting difference. Hello. Accepting the differences. If you're brought up in UK, you're not brought up in the same way than if you were in America. If you were brought up in America, you were not brought up the same way as the Caribbean or Africa or Latin America. It's a fact. Wasting time and going back about whose way is which and better and who's this and this and this and this. You guys have gotten wrapped up in that proximity piece. Okay, because we're all facing the same similar challenges irrespective of our location. The fact that we live in America doesn't make us better than a Black person living on the continent. It doesn't make us better than a Black person living in Europe. Okay, we're all facing the same type of things. All right. The number 3 thing I want to offer is educate yourself on other members of the diaspora. This will cut down on the misinformation and the confusion. I recently saw the most absurd video from a guy. It went viral, in which this Black American was saying he's never seen an African person with an afro or a beard. Completely absurd.
I got a question for Black Americans that think they came from Africa. Okay? Listen up. Have you ever seen an African from Africa over there with an afro and a beard? I'm waiting. No, you haven't. You know why? Because we're not from Africa. You know what I'm saying? We're not from Africa. Their hair don't grow like ours. They don't grow beard. They don't.
Madness. One trip on your Instagram or TikTok would let you know that brothers on the continent indeed have beards. They may not wear the, afros currently. They did back in the 60s, the same way Black Americans were wearing afros in the 60s, the same way that afros were popular around the world at that time. This whole concept that we're not from the same root, it's crazy. Okay, and actually, if I'm honest, African genetics are some of the most prolific and potent genes in the world. They are what make people from the continent athletic, beautiful, tall, strong, virile, age well, etc., etc., etc. The next thing is establish and adhere to a code. Some of you guys will remember this when you were growing up, which says what goes on in your house, it's not outside business. What goes on in your family, your private business. Your parents may have advised you, don't be talking about, our marital problems. Don't be talking about Uncle so-and-so going to jail and all of that. We need to establish and adhere to a code. One of the most disgusting things is watch Black people talk about other Black people as if they are not Black. Discussing basically private and personal information with outsiders, with foreigners, with non-Black people. And it's just insane. People like the Asians, people like the Italians, people like the Latinos, they have a fierce code. You will not divide and conquer them. Okay, you will not use one of their brothers against the other. And last but not least, I want to encourage you guys to be patient, loving, and understanding to your peers. Okay, a lot of times we are shoveling all this anger and animosity on each other as if we don't understand the Black and African experience. As if we don't know how hard it is. So you've endured something that other Black men have never endured, or you've endured something that other Black women have. We have so much patience and we have so much love and so much forgiveness for everyone except the people that look like us. And it's a huge detrimental aspect. These are the type of topics I would like to see in these diasporian, chat rooms going forward, instead of hashing blame on people that are not to blame. I recently took a tour to Cape Coast in which we learned a lot of, history that is not properly known, which is, the Europeans came to continent at first doing trade with the locals. And bit by bit, they began to encroach. And next thing you know, they were fighting each other and things got out of hand and the locals could not combat with the weapons and all this stuff. A lot of the narratives that we learn in the Western world about what really happened in Africa are not true. And unless you investigate for yourself, you will never know. And you'll be blaming people that are not to blame and acquitting those who are to blame. Okay? Black men, Black women is not your enemy. Okay? Get that smoke for other men. Get that smoke for the non-Black men that are really oppressing you. Huh? Black women, Black men are not your enemy. They're your counterpart. Hello? You guys are acquitting those that are guilty and blaming those that are innocent. And it's madness. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this topic in the box below. Until I meet again, stay Black and true. If you ain't Black, just stay true.